Welcome to Tis the Soundtrack. I'm your host, Kevin Williams, and today we're continuing our exploration of the Christmas gig. We'll be looking at the television advertisements that featured these songs, my favorite tracks from the digital album, and where you can still listen to it in its entirety. This is Target's The Christmas Gig 2010, Part 2.
Hey baby, I've got something for you and I want to tell you, but you'll have to wait.
As I mentioned in Part 1, this digital album was comprised of 14 tracks, yet only 8 were featured in Target's holiday ads. Of those 8, 6 were produced by Dayton Ferris under the All Things Merry campaign. Dayton Ferris is the husband-wife team of Jonathan Dayton and Valerie Ferris, the same Jonathan Dayton and Valerie Ferris who have directed a mountain of music videos for bands including Red Hot Chili Peppers, R.E.M., and Smashing Pumpkins. The same Jonathan Dayton and Valerie Ferris that made their film directorial debut in 2006 with a little movie named Little Miss Sunshine. I was able to track down 5 of their 6 commercials, mostly from the blogs and YouTube channels of the creatives, agencies, and artists involved in the project. They are Mrs. Claus Ain't Got Nothin' on Me. This commercial features the song Mrs. Claus by Little Jackie and shows multiple copies of a woman superimposed over the top of each other and completing an array of holiday activities like cleaning, decorating, cooking, and wrapping gifts, all while her partner slowly untangles and strings a strand of lights on the tree.
I ain't got no time for a nap. No, I gotta make this holiday glow like a light bulb. Tie it all up in a big shiny bow. I'm a home for the holiday superhero.
Toy Jackpot. This commercial features the song Toy Jackpot by Blackalicious and depicts a pair of children coming down the stairs and tearing into their gifts, but played in reverse order. You see the gifts rewrap themselves, stockings refill, and it ends with the children rewinding up the stairs.
Rip it open in a second and it's time to play. I was up all night in anticipation, feeling electric jewels of jubilation. You tied carol from the local congregation, make it tough to hold my patience.
Electronic Santa. This commercial features a robot constructed out of tech gadgets of the day and 2 kids in gold tracksuits that look like they could be straight out of a 90s Puff Daddy video, all dancing to the song Electronic Santa by Blazer Force. Tiny Tree. This commercial starts with a woman purchasing a small Christmas tree. Not Charlie Brown small, but a tabletopper nonetheless. The commercial progresses with her getting her home ready for a Christmas party and ends with her guests hanging ornaments on her tiny tree. This ad uses, as you might have guessed, the song Tiny Tree Christmas by Guster.
A tiny tree, Christmas, the tinsel lights, a star that sings, tap your tiny tree.
Power Chord Christmas. This commercial is the only one whose working title does not closely or entirely match the song. It features a montage of outdoor lighting displays all being switched on. Houses, trucks, basketball hoops, barn doors, stuff like that, all being lit up with an amount of lights that would make Clark Griswold proud. This ad is set to 10,000 watts by Crystal Antlers. You'll Never Find My Christmas. The final commercial, and the one I was completely unsuccessful in locating, is titled You'll Never Find My Christmas and uses the Bishop Allen song of the same name. This ad is referenced on an archive of Target's site from December 2010 and in a Little Black Book article about Brickyard VFX, the digital studio that provided special effects for some of the commercials. But, other than the title, I have no idea what this commercial was about, nor can I find it anywhere. If anyone remembers seeing it or has any information, please let me know. Next, in a segment I'm calling Tis the Top 5, which may at first blush appear similar to the 5 Golden Things segment from the Can't Wait for Christmas podcast, but I assure you is in no way, shape, or form an attempt to infringe on any trademarks or intellectual properties of Sweet Timmy B, we are going to look at my 5 favorite tracks from this album. Number 5, It's Christmas by Coconut Records.
Welcome back, my friend. Feels like it's been so long. You come around just once a year and then you are gone. So stay with me tonight and we can wake up with a smile. Oh, Christmas.
It's Christmas is the work of Jason Schwartzman's one-man solo act, Coconut Records. You may be more familiar with Jason from his acting career, where he's portrayed one of the Sherman brothers in Saving Mr. Banks, the final antagonist Gideon in Scott Pilgrim, and has appeared in just about every Wes Anderson movie. He was also the drummer and songwriter for the band Phantom Planet, whose song California was used as the theme song for the show The O.C.
California, here we come, right back where we started from.
It's Christmas is quite similar to other Coconut Records works, including Night Timing, an album which came out a few years earlier and produced the hit song West Coast, which also appeared on the O.C. It's Christmas is a slowed-down, melodic, melancholy-soaked 2000s California indie tune, and there's nothing wrong with that. Number 4, Mrs. Claus by Little Jackie.
I ain't got no time for a nap. Oh no, no, I gotta make this holiday glow like a light bulb.
Little Jackie is the duo of artist Amani Coppola and producer Adam Pallin. Coppola has described Little Jackie as the commercial vehicle which allows her the freedom to create more experimental music under her own name, continue to develop new artists, and still pay the bills. Mrs. Claus is quite similar to other soul music that was being put out by Adele, Duffy, Amy Winehouse, and others around the same time. In fact, the first time I heard the song, I swore it was Amy Winehouse. Recently, this song has received a bit of a revival. It was featured in the 2022 Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Number 3, You'll Never Find My Christmas by Bishop Allen.
You can find your feet and you can find your way.
You can find yourself in bed at the end of the day.
You can find some fun on a tropical Christmas. But you'll never find mine. Find it in your heart to be patient with me.
You can find a new star for the top of the tree.
I don't mean to be coy.
And I don't mean to be vicious.
But you'll never find my Christmas.
Bishop Allen is the band I was most familiar with before doing research for this episode. I first saw them when they appeared on the movie Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist a few years earlier, where they also lent their song Middle Management to the soundtrack. Incidentally, the film's soundtrack also featured a song by one of my then and still favorite bands, Vampire Weekend. I'll pause now while you judge me. I mention this because there are a lot of similarities between the two bands and the music they were creating at the time. They both had that East Coast, Ivy League, indie art rock aesthetic. But, even being a Bishop Allen fan, I, along with the rest of the internet, still have no recollection of the Target commercial featuring their song. It seems to have been completely scrubbed from the shared consciousness. I do remember this song being aggressively blasted out the front of our local Hollister a year or two later. I assume it was also playing inside the store, but as someone who was already 30 at the time, stores with overenthusiastic associates, spraying down clothes with perfume while attempting to scream their current deals over the thumping bass absolutely terrified me. There is a music video for this song available on YouTube, a stop-motion video featuring 3 blind mice ornaments attempting to navigate a Christmas tree. I came across this video years ago and just assumed it was the official video released for the song. While doing research for this episode, I learned it was not only an amateur video, but also someone's first ever attempt at stop motion. So great job Riley Noel on both the video and having a perfectly appropriate last name. Number 2, 10,000 Watts by Crystal Antlers. I really like this song. It's a bit of a departure from the other tracks on this album. Instead of being soft or delicate, 10,000 Watts is pumped up, its strained vocals over driving guitars and percussion. Crystal Antlers was going through some personnel changes around the time this album was recorded, and their sound was changing too. If you like 10,000 Watts, it most closely resembles the works on their Two-Way Mirror album released the following year. Honorable mention, Electronic Santa by Blazer Force.
Electronic Santa Claus, the electronic Santa Claus, the electronic Santa Claus, the electronic Santa. Electronic Santa's going to rock you back.
Electronic Santa receives the honorable mention not because it's one of my favorites, but because it seems to be the song most remembered from this campaign. There are tons of YouTube videos featuring it, some where people have gone through the effort of editing the commercial clips into full music videos. Blazer Force is the name used by Brett McKenzie, or one half of the musical duo Flight of the Conchords, to record this track. Side note, during the summer of 2010, around the time Brett would have been recording this track, he was in LA, acting as music supervisor for the Muppets movie and creating the timeless classic Man or Muppet. And number 1, Party Hard by Little Isidore.
What a party! Party hard! Gonna party! Party hard!
Little Isidore is the odd artist out on this record. He started out as a child star in the 1950s with a long stint on the show Talent Scout, decades before the other artists on this album were born. He recorded several records with his band, The Inquisitors, in the 1960s before disappearing for nearly 3 decades. He resurfaced in the 90s, reassembled a band, and recorded a couple more records in his signature 50s rock and doo-wop sound. Party Hard is squarely in that vein, a full, lively track with a nostalgic sound that would be just as at home in the 1950s as in the 2010s. And nothing against the indie darlings on this record, but Party Hard is just a step above the rest and my pick for the best track. Little Isidore also has another Christmas hit, the song Christmas of Love, from the soundtrack of the 2000s version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Baby, picture you and me hanging around a Christmas tree.
Lastly, let's take a look at how you can obtain a copy of the Christmas Gig 2010. Like we covered in Part 1, the record was never released commercially outside of the promotional LPs, and Target quickly removed the digital download from their website after the 2010 holiday season. But because the internets were much simpler in 2010, the album was being hosted directly on Target's web servers. Why is that important, you might ask? It's important because it means that the album was preserved in the backups of archive.org. If you go to archive.org, point the Wayback Machine at target.com and select a date in December 2010, you will see a preserved copy of the website with functional download link and all. Now, I want to pause for a minute here. I have absolutely no idea what the legality is of downloading a digital album from a 14-year-old backup of a corporate website, and I don't want to instruct anyone to do anything illegal. That aside, if you enjoy the songs on this album, you should find a way to obtain them that financially supports the artists. We all know how undercompensated musicians are in this era of streaming. And with that, we'll wrap up this episode. I hope you enjoyed our 2-part look at Target's The Christmas Gig 2010. Thank you for listening to 'Tis the Soundtrack. This is Kevin Williams saying cheers and Merry Christmas.
What a